Welcome everyone to another KSB video, and today's mission is to get to the moon. So as you can see, I booted up a previous save from the last game, from the last episode I meant, and I'm currently just adding a little bit more fuel and extra fins for better stability. Here's me launching the rocket. There's the first stage. Quickly zipping through the atmosphere. And there is the second stage. There's me setting the target to the moon so I can align better. And there's me intersecting with the moon. It's me slowing down a little bit to get extra close to the moon just so I can get a nearby moon. So you have the near moon or like near Kerbin. You have in space in space near Kerbin, and then you have like around Kerbin, so then you get like extra science points. That's why I did a close up. There's me collecting the far out science before time warping in. Oh, and then I realized, yeah, I didn't have my pilots, my science Kerbin, so I couldn't reset the modules, so I wouldn't be able to actually get the extra points. So here is the second launch. There is main engine. There is second engine. And then here's me again realigning with the moon. And then there is another good intersection with the moon. There is me again doing all the experiments, then sending out our uh, main pilot so I can so because the crew module doesn't have a exit, so then I had to kind of just like switch them out. There's a science experiment. Moving it closer to the moon. There's me doing the switch right there. And then there is me restoring the modules. And there is me doing all the experiments. Collect them all, and then shoot my way. Then we time warp all the way to near Kerbin. And just time warp near into the atmosphere. Do a small slowdown burn. Nothing too big because I didn't have enough delta V, but and there is a slightly harsh entrance. There goes one module. Yeah, I had to rotate during this so I wouldn't burn up in the atmosphere due to such a harsh entry with the speed and the angle and all that stuff, but he successfully made it down. And then there is touchdown. Massive science gains. So then went researched a bunch of uh, things, bigger rockets, better construction, extra fuel, better power and stuff. Yeah, got the fueling systems and extra stuff. Didn't get power yet, but should be fine. So yeah, accepted a few missions for tourists, I think. Right, they're called tourists. Yeah, I think. I'm pretty sure, yeah, tourists. To do some flybys of the moon and orbits around Kerbin. Here's me just aligning to get a good intersection with Kerbin. I mean with the Mun. And then built a new rocket to hold like a lot of tourists so I can actually like um hollow them. And then here is me using illegal building techniques basically to kind of have it all fit reasonably inside a decent sized rocket. Putting on parachutes so I don't forget them, batteries, and then here is me kind of squishing them all together. I didn't squish them too much because um, it's it kind of makes it unstable to a point, and that really doesn't help, and kind of also like undermines the total weight that you're gonna probably be putting on the rocket. Because you gotta remember, like those the amount of passengers that you carry with um, the rockets, like like if you're adding like that many, it's gonna definitely add a lot of weight, and you'll see later in this video that kind of cause a lot of problems. Here is me kind of looking for the couplers after I was stuck in the cargo mode. Added a Poodle engine to because they're really efficient and it's kind of a really big rocket, so decided, let's try it. The coupler, and then went with these big solid fuel rockets because uh, they're really efficient in getting off the ground and into space. So went with those, realized, oh, I'm overweight. Then I decided to cut down on the rockets after, well, first upgraded the launch pad so I can actually hold that weight. Cut down on the rockets because I was over part limit. And added on nose cones for extra aerodynamic. Added fins to stabilize the rocket. And renamed it. Yeah, forgot to uh, auto strut the engine so they kind of flailed around a little bit. Went back, fixed that. And then also forgot to add all of the tourists. So then went back and also fixed that. Still with the weird wobbly rockets, didn't really know the problem with that, so I kind of just went with it, hoping that it wouldn't cost too much delta V. And then here is me also exiting Kerbin. So there is main stage, a bit of off-putting with the second stage as it kind of kicked me because of the aerodynamic nose cones that on the first stage that kind of like pushed me out. And then here is me hoping to get to the Mun with such a kind of low uh, thrust to weight ratio and for quite a bit. And as you saw there, I had went through all of the tourists because if you have, say, like a lot of tourists like I currently have, and then go into the map, it really lags out the game until you go through all the tourists again, like all of your passengers, because it kind of loads that weird static thing, and it also updates the game. Um, yeah, that's why that happened. Here's me also kind of pushing down the rockets so that weird kicking doesn't happen, and adding a few solid rocket boosters, and then restaging, realize I was over part limit again. Kind of seeing maybe I can change these out for like the smaller ones or like different engines. Decided to go with the small fuel rockets and make sure I stage them correctly. Kind of make sure everything was like in a in good condition so I can actually fly this thing and move things around a little bit. Then we launched. Yeah, still weird thing with those uh weird movement of the lower stage. So then decide to add kind of mounts and that fixed the problem. And then there is the next launch. A bit of wobbling with the first stage, but nothing too strong. And then there is first stage. Then the small rocket boosters, get rid of them, and then back to just the pool engine. There's me checking how far I will end up, and then those definitely engines helped a lot, as in it got me higher in the atmosphere, so the pool engines would be to their max efficiency at the time, but it still wasn't far enough. So there's me going back to the drawing board. Decided to go with a stronger engine, see if that was the problem, as because the pool engine I didn't have a one thrust to weight ratio at the start. Then realized I staged it wrong, and yeah. And probably the four rockets, the four parachutes were a little bit overkill, but that was probably fine. Then fix the staging so that wouldn't happen. Then did another liftoff. There is main engine. there are the boosters for second, and then there's back to the poodle. Not the poodle, the I forget the engine's name, but stronger engine. So the better thrust to weight ratio got me farther, but not too far. So yeah, it kind of didn't work. Then went back to the drawing board. Decided to cut down on the amount of passengers, so I wouldn't be doing this so much weight pushing up. Uh, then move the rocket lower, so it would hopefully be more stable on the launch pad. A little bit of wobbling, and still forgot I didn't stage that properly. So I decided to see how far I could go with just the rocket. Um, yeah, the stability didn't really help. So I decided to do a strike down on the Space Center instead. Boom. Then here's me doing another launch with the staging correct, and there is launch off. There is main engine cutoff, there's second engine, second stage, there's the side boosters, there is a car passing by during this recording, and then almost made it to the Mun, but not quite there yet. So I decided to go with the Poodle engine instead of the main engine, and decided to upgrade the boosters to see if that would help. But I was still, of course, overweight. But yeah, so yeah, decided to upgrade the engine, the boosters, and then make sure everything was staged correctly, because that's the worst thing that usually happens. Double checking, and then making sure everything was, I could make it, and then launched off. Then there is liftoff, a bit of movement, but it was fine for the most part. Then there is the second stage with quite a bit of instability. Uh, didn't know really why, but I guess like the extra weight on the boosters definitely didn't help with it. So decided to upgrade the wings and hopefully see if that worked out. Also made sure everything was correctly staged, right? Yeah, and then lift off again. Yeah, there is some chatters as I, of course, recorded this live. Yeah, there is. Thank you to the chatter, to the chat for helping me out a little bit with the staging and stuff, but it worked. The stability definitely helped, and then went further with the ascending. almost made it. I made it to basically like the Mun, so that was great. So then warped there and made sure everything was in check. Make sure like all the tourists were happy with their itineraries, and then boosted to Kerbin orbit. Barely made it. I didn't make it into Kerbin orbit, so I kind of would atmospherically break. Well, I did make it into Kerbin orbit, but I ran out of Delta V, so I wouldn't be able to deorbit, so I had to restart. So then decide to do another launch with a different angle of approach, but we'll see how that worked out. There's liftoff. There's second stage. There's boosters gone. Separated the boosters a little too early, but that's fine. There's me speeding up time. And then there is me really overshooting the min approach. I tried slowing down so I wouldn't have to like do too much of a burn to deorbit myself, and that worked. So then I warped to apoapsis, made sure everyone's itinerary was checked off, then deorbited myself. Just a small burn, nothing too big. And then slowed down a little bit so I wouldn't be carrying as much weight and being in like coming into the atmosphere so quickly. While I was looking at the map, I was maybe thinking I would maybe be able to land on the uh, at the at the launch pad or near the what am I saying? Near the complex, I guess, but decided not to. There's me following the debris for a little bit of a fireworks show. It did not happen. Then there is me parachuting to safely come down. Yeah, so it's kind of like really off of the complex, but not bad. And there was a successful landing. And then after that, finally upgraded the launch pad to the maximum, so I wouldn't have to deal with the annoying weight restrictions. So then decided to redo my rocket to the big, to like the double, and then made sure everything. Then added a bunch of like, then kind of added +1 to everything, so I would get the extra boost. And also added fuel to the side to the boosters. So during the boost, I would spend the fuel on the boosters for the Poodle engine, and then I would, when I shot them off, the hope was that the fuel on the boosters would have ran out, and then kind of just used the main tank. So then went back, make sure everyone was loaded on, and then did another launch. There is liftoff. A bit of wobbliness during ascend. There is second stage. And then I saw that was oddly tilting, and then realized when you have the priority of the tanks like set to a higher priority than the other tank, like to your main tank, that it would drain all of the fuel from that one specific tank, and then equally draw it from the rest. So I thought that was a one-time thing, but that was a weird priority thing. So the way to combat that is to basically set that priority of the main tank lower so it equally drain from all the other tanks and then drain from the main tank. Yeah, so that was me checking if that was a one-time thing or not. And it definitely wasn't. See, that tank's draining much quicker than the other tanks for some reason. And it didn't even spend all the fuel. So decided to go back, see like degrade, like see why the priorities were kind of like that. Check the overlays, reset the priorities. Check maybe if like the placement of the tank kind of did that, or like the type of tank, but that kind of happens with all the tanks. Then kind of fix the priorities again and launched. So then lift off again for like the 40th time. There was second stage. Yeah, it kept on happening with the boosters anyways, but like the amount of fuel this time wasn't as great, so it didn't have the same kind of like big effect on the weight ratio and where the weight it is distributed. So that was fine. Then boosted the way there. Made sure the angle I was approaching at was relatively zero, so I wouldn't have to worry so much. And I was tracking my apoapsis all the way there, and then saw that I was quite a bit off of the mun, so kind of went back and added extra fuel to see if that would help. And struggled with the nose cones for a little bit. Check the priorities again to see why that was kind of happening with the weird priorities. Yeah, so the priorities kind of act weird in KSB1, so that wasn't fun, and I was really struggling with that quite a bit, but I ended up figuring it out. There is left off again. Actually, and I yeah decided to see what was kind of happening with the engines, with like the fuel tanks and stuff. So I did kind of a burn at the launch pad. Went back to the drawing board. Right, then decided to just go for it. There is me making sure that I could I can intercept with the mun, and then here's liftoff again. There is second stage, and then realized I again set the priorities weirdly, but nothing I can really do about it. Yeah, so I set the priority of the tank too low, so it's draining from the main tank instead of the side tanks, and then quickly fix that. So with the extra added fuel, the thrust to weight ratio is even lower than before, so that wasn't the best. And then I also had some weird gimbly issues with the movement of the tanks and all that stuff. And then did the main fuel tank burn. And from that, I kind of just like gave up because I wasn't going too far. And then again, made on this is all live streamed from my Twitch, twitch.tv says Orbo Pigeon. So I might see you there, I might not. But thank you all for watching this episode, and yeah, hope to see you over there. Bye!